darling, welcome back to my YouTube channel. It's your girl Lerato, and I'm excited that you clicked this video and you're joining me today. And if you are new to my channel, welcome. I hope you enjoy this environment and you become part of the family by clicking the subscribe button, and make sure that you click also that bell so that you can be notified when I post again. So today I'm gonna be just sipping my tea while having a conversation with you guys about marriage. I love talking about marriage, but I make sure that I don't just rush to share things that I haven't learned or gone through or stuff like that. And anyway, I don't need to experience everything for me to share, but also, you know, the Spirit of God has to inspire me. Well, I want to talk to you guys about things that I believe you should consider about the man you want to marry. And if you are a brother joining us, well, welcome. Feel comfortable, because some of those points, they overlap. Actually, most of them, they overlap, if not all, to women as well. So for you, it can be things to consider about the woman you want to marry. Whoever you are, you're still gonna gain from this. So before I waste any more of your time, let me give you the first thing I believe you should consider about the man you want to marry or the woman you want to marry. That is, how is his relationship with God? Well, sis, you need to consider that, and I would like to believe that I'm talking to people who are born again, who have received Jesus Christ as their Lord and Savior. And if that's you, well, like me as well, having a relationship with God should be the first priority, the first thing we consider about whoever that we desire to marry. You know, you need to ask yourself, first of all, you know, some guys, when you ask them, are you born again, they tend to tell you, yeah, I do go to church. Well, a relationship with God goes beyond just going to church. Church is part of the things that we do as children of God to connect with other believers so that we can worship together in fellowship. But how is his relationship with God? As far as, well, is it driven by servanthood to God, or is it based on what they stand to gain from being a follower of Jesus? Number one, probably they came to Christianity because they believe that Christian women are good for them. And that is not a real reason really that you should marry a person for. The reason why I'm also saying that you should consider if the relationship with God is driven by servanthood to Christ, or whether it comes from what they stand to gain by being in that relationship with Christ, is because what will happen when things don't go the way that you guys anticipated that things will go, you know. There are many people who believe that God just blesses marriages, which means when you get married, you're gonna be successful, you're gonna drive a big car, you're gonna have certain things. But what happens if God doesn't give you those things yet? Doesn't mean that God is not blessing you. God has blessed all of us. You know, Paul says that he has blessed us with all spiritual gifts. So we are already blessed, but it's about the manifestation. The manifestation of those blessings may not be at the time that he had anticipated. And what happens when it seems like God is not doing the things that he expected? The second thing that I believe that you should really consider is how he treats women in general. How does he treat women? Well, I'm not talking about a guy who flirts around. Like, really, that is a red flag, sister. That, or brother, if she is still flirting around because you guys are just dating or you guys are just engaged, well, that's a red flag, really. So I'm not talking about being romantically involved with women, you know, but for example, let's look at how is his relationship with his mother. You know, I used to hear this before I got married, when I was still dating my boyfriend, who's now my husband. And I used to hear that, you know, you need to look at how does the guy treat his mom and how is his relationship with his mom, because whatever way he's going to treat his mom is going to be the way he treats you. There are people who really don't care about their moms, and I'm not talking about a person who probably has gone through pains, and I'm going to talk about pains down there about the past in one of my points, but I'm not talking about people who have really experienced bad image of motherhood from their own mothers. I'm talking about a person who is a mother, and if they don't have a mom, it can be somebody who played a role of a mom in their life. It can be a guardian, an auntie, a granny, whoever that person is. How is the relationship, how is his relationship with that mother figure in his life, you know? And it's true that he will treat you the way he treats his mom, and that's why I want to talk about one warning that I want to give you. Beware of mama's boys, because you know there's a difference between these two types of men: a man who's a mama's boy and a man who loves his mom. You know, because I mean, we can't say somebody shouldn't love their mom. I love my mom, and it's important that he loves his mom, because that's what I said. If he doesn't care about his mom, then definitely to some extent he's gonna get tired of caring for you. But you know, a mama's boy is somebody who is raised by a woman who does everything for him, a woman who doesn't allow them to do anything, like they are treated like glass, like an egg, you know. A mom who monitors every step of the way, like they don't learn to be independent at some point. And hey, when you get married to such a brother, you're going to have to do the things that the mother has been doing. Dang. Oh, just wanted to finish this because anyway, there was not much left. So my son is now awake. If now you hear some noise in the background, it's because I had to play something for him and give him something to eat so that we can finish this video, guys. As I was saying, a man who is a mama's boy will want you to treat him the same way as the mom will treat him. Generally, I've realized that men tend to relate to women, any woman in their life, in relation to their first encounter of the most important woman in their life. You know, if at home mama was able to do all the work in the house without hiring help while working, then you shouldn't need any extra help, because you should be able to do it since you're a woman as well, you know. So it's very important that you watch out for such philosophies that are emanating from how he treats women in his life, because it's gonna go into how he treats you as well. Now, the second type of man I spoke about is a man who loves his mom. A man who loves his mom, or a mom figure in his life, is a man who cares about his mom, who has a healthy relationship with his mom, or you know, whatever guardian in his life, but is still able to be independent. He is allowed to make decisions on his own with the guidance of the parents, of course, in his life. But that doesn't mean that the mother takes over, steps in and does everything for this guy. This guy is capable of making decisions on his own. He's capable of figuring out what works for him, and such that if he goes and starts a family with you, he will be able to adapt into the new situation where both of you now are coming together to establish what works for you and not what used to work for my mom back at home and so forth, you know. So that's one of the things you should consider. The third thing I believe you should consider about the man you want to marry is, what is his philosophy about marriage? You know, how does he view marriage? What is marriage to him? What does a wife mean to him? And what does being a husband mean to him? You know, you don't want somebody who will just view you as just a trophy wife, unless you want to be a trophy wife. But also, in as much as you want to be a trophy wife as well, you want to be respected, right? You don't want to be treated like trash because you're a woman. You know, you want a man who's gonna value you, who's gonna know what you bring to the relationship, to marriage, regardless of the levels of life that you both are at. You know, you want a man who values you, rather than just treat you like an object because you are his wife. How does he view being a husband? How does he view his relationship, his responsibilities as a husband? You know, there are men who believe that as husbands they should be the sole providers, and as a wife you must stay at home. Well, is that what you want? Is that, you know, the plan for your life? You know, you need to consider such, because you don't just want to do something because you're trying to please the guy and you're trying to secure marriage, because down the line that may come back to haunt you. So secondly, there are men who believe that the woman must be the sole provider. They would like to just be house husband. Is that what you're looking for? You need to consider that. There are men who don't mind you thriving and doing what you feel you love, what you have dreamt of doing, you know, progressing in your career, progressing in your business. They don't mind being there for you and supporting you and so forth, while they are still the sole providers. You get what I'm saying? There are men who would say, with your income, we'll just do the miscellaneous things, you know, your grocery, you know, all these things that are needed. And for me as the husband, I believe that I should be the one who covers the house and the car. You know, is that what you want? Do you want to take part in paying for the mortgage or the apartment, or, you know, is that what you want? Is that what will work for you? You need to make sure you're on the same page. And I'm still in the third point of the philosophy about marriage, his idea of marriage and how he views himself as a husband. You know, fourthly, there are men who believe that as a husband, you know, they need to get a woman who's gonna do everything 50-50. It's a must that you must work. You know, as much as there are others who believe that it's a must that you must stay at home, there are others who believe that it's a must that you must work. You know, they wouldn't dare marry a woman who doesn't have a job or who doesn't have a certain type of a career. Well, that doesn't mean they're a bad person for desiring that. Is that what you desire as well? You know, because you need to ask yourself as well, what happens if you lose a job like me? You know, for me, I enjoyed being a stay-at-home mom, especially when my baby was still young, and I knew that's where God had me in that season, you know. But as I began to go through life, I started desiring to do other things, so I decided to go ahead of God, get a job. And then before I know it, all that had ended as COVID-19 was also entering. And if you're with a man who believes that it's a must that you must work, well, his treatment towards you is going to change when you enter into this season, because you can't really determine what's going to happen tomorrow. And same applies to women who believe that they need to marry a man who's in high position, who's rich, who's all that. Because one person said, I forgot who said this, someone once said that you need to be aware, because the guy you marry as a CEO can be fired just after the wedding. What are you going to do? Are you going to file for divorce because now he lost his job? So these things are the things that I believe that you and the person you want to marry have to discuss, have to be on the same page with. You know, I'm not going to put a standard that this is how you should do marriage, this is how the person must be, but it's all about you guys being on the same page. Fourthly, you need to listen to what he says about his past and ask yourself, is he healed from this past? You know, because if he isn't, it's going to affect his future marriage with you, you know, and how he's going to be a father, how he's going to be, you know, a husband to you, and how he's going to view you as a wife, you know, as that person coming into his life. You know, our past plays a major role in marriage. We deal mostly with our past issues that we bring into marriage. That's why most people end up in divorce. You know, it's because of the certain pain that was caused in the past by certain people, and they bring that pain into marriage, and you know, and it starts to affect how they view their husband or how they view their wife and how they react and all that. You know, chronic cheatings, overspending, all these things that make couples to end up divorcing really emanate from foundational issues of the past, you know, pains that we gathered as we're growing as children. So you need to ask yourself, is this person healed from what they're saying? If they're telling you about a girl who betrayed them, don't just be like, oh wow, that girl betrayed him, you know, that's her loss. For me, this is what I'm gonna treat him like. You know, just ask yourself, is he healed though, in as much as he's telling you that he got hurt by that girl? Because tomorrow he's gonna doubt your loyalty to him, you know, or you know, whatever the case may be. If he's telling you about abuse and all that, is he healed from that? Because if that abuse is still something that hurts him, it can cause him to be somebody who gets overly angry, who overreacts to situation, and it may even affect how he even reacts towards you. That's where gender-based violence come in. So think about that. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't marry somebody with an ugly past, but it's very important that if you meet somebody like that and you can see that this person is still not necessarily healed from that, then you come up with ways in which both of you can heal, so that you can enter into marriage as two whole people who are healed. And the fifth thing that I believe you should consider about the man you want to marry, especially for men, is what does he think about counseling? There are men who believe that I don't tell my issues to people. They see counseling as exposing themselves and blah blah blah, and they don't want to do that. Their pride won't allow them to do that because they feel ashamed or so. Instead of viewing counseling as an important part of your relationship, an important part of your marriage that will take part in making sure that you both grow into healthy couple and building a healthy home, healthy marriage. The things I mentioned here, except for the first point of his relationship with God, sis, there I believe you shouldn't negotiate anything. Like, especially if you really want to live for God, you want a marriage that will glorify God. God should be the center of the marriage. Do not be unequally yoked, But as for the other points, the 4 points I mentioned there, doesn't necessarily mean that you shouldn't marry somebody because they are still healing from their past. I hope you understand what I'm trying to say here. But what I'm saying is that consider this before you go into marriage. You might need to deal with those things first. Make sure that you guys are on the same page before you get into marriage, because I'm telling you, in marriage you will not be in the same page if you're not in the same page before marriage, because as two different individuals, we tend to still sometimes come up with different ways of solving something that we're on the same page with before marriage. Now imagine if you guys were completely opposite, had opposite ideas, opposite philosophies, opposite visions. Then how are you going to build a successful marriage? How are you guys going to agree? How can two work together if they do not agree? I have a video about dating deal breakers that you should be aware of, and you can click the link in the description below to watch that video if you feel that there are some deal breakers you would like to know about before you can even begin dating. I hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure that you watch more and share. Love you guys so much. Bye.